Welcome to another installment of Cracking Open, the podcast brought to you by the Sage Circle. In this series, I interview Sage Circle members to find out about their intuitive journey and development. Today's guest is Daye, a lifelong intuitive explorer. Daye shares with us how his intuition opened through a series of life experiences that were simply meant to be. He also discusses the role guilt plays with intuition and how in this moment, you are okay. Let's jump into Cracking Open.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information. Welcome back to another episode of Cracking Open the Podcast. Today, my guest is Daye. Hi, Daye.
Hello. Good to see you, Bo.
Good to have you on here.
Yeah, it's great.
As a fellow Circle member and contributor and editor, and I mean, there's so much that you play as a role in this group. I am beyond excited to have you here today. So let's jump in. Tell me about your intuition. When did it open? When did you first start becoming aware of it? What was your journey?
Oh, let's see. I think, it's kind of hard. It's not like I didn't crack open per se, like some people we know at a later date. I think I've always sort of had that inclination, even from my earliest memories. I was very aware of things even before I could walk. I remember crawling out of a bed where I'd been put down to nap and through a little open window and onto the fire escape in New York City and climbing up having my mother come grab me. And I was thinking, wow, this is a great view out here. And she was freaked out, of course, and that kind of stuff. And I did have a lot of lucid dreaming, very much so, and very aware of the transition from dream back to the 3D reality, the physical reality, and having such a great time in the dream. And I tried so many times to just keep that dream coming. If I could wake up and still be here, that would be so great. Wow, oh, darn, that kind of stuff. And then, being put on the bed for a nap and floating up from the bed and going through the ceiling and seeing the rafters and going through the shingles and then being on top of the house. And this is probably about age 3. And this happened several times. And the neighborhood looked the same, but it was in a different quality of light. And I knew from there I could go anywhere and do anything I wanted. And I don't have a lot of clear memories of where I did go, but I remember being able to fly and doing stuff like that. So, that type of thing was sort of with me, and the idea of more to life than what we see on the surface was just sort of inculcated in me from an early experience. So I was always very interested in all of that. And I was great friends with my grandmother, who was very much into this stuff. She and my grandfather, who died when I was quite young, before I even really met him, they had this wonderful love affair, and they just loved each other from the moment they met through everything. And so when he died early for her, her interest in the afterlife was very, very strong. And so she was always reading books about that. And we talked about all kinds of stuff, and she was always making little notes. And so that kind of opened up some things for me as well. So I always had that interest, and I was always inquiring as to why is this? What is it? What's okay? Great. We've got atoms. Okay, so what are the atoms in? Okay, so they're energy. So what, there's energy wave. So what is waving? What's behind the scenes? What's behind the curtains? I was always trying to see that. So I think it's just kind of a natural tendency to always look behind the surface. And you know, I think I'm pretty smart, but I didn't do very well academically. Barely made it through high school. Um, and I think probably if it were today, I probably would have been diagnosed with some sort of learning thing or something like that. It's just that sort of structured thing didn't really uh, mesh with me very well. And somehow I got into college and had one fun-filled year before I uh, tuned in, turned on, and dropped out. And so, and that led to some psychedelic experiences back in the 60s. And those were enjoyable, but again, the intent was always for seeing beyond. You know, even as a young fellow, I was always, what's really going on? Had some pretty elevating experiences with that, and you know, listening to rock music, and the who were great devotees of Meher Baba, you know, sort of introduced me to um, Eastern spirituality. And so I really dug into those things and read and looked, you know, the Upanishads and the early Christians and Buddhism and, you know, even Thomas Merton and all these, what's really going on here. And it never could quite understand why somebody would want unity. If you're the same as everything else, well, what fun is that? I mean, how could you even pick up a telephone? You know, I couldn't quite get it. And then I was always sort of open to serendipity and what we might call signs. I read signs in life as long as I can remember. Okay, oh, this is something, and then recognizing something very strong as opposed to just a regular experience. And um, in 71, I found transcendental meditation, which was the thing for me. Um, I think it's a great foundation for anybody, um, very profound. And when I learned that, I remember the very first time I was instructed, I went into my first meditation, and Zoom, pure consciousness, was just a moment, you know, 20 minutes or so had gone by. I said, oh, and I came back with this understanding. I said, oh, I see. This is the experience that all of these informations that I've been looking at are pointing at. And so it's all that same thing. They're just coming at it from a different point of view. And then having had that experience, then, you know, my further inquiries became that much richer because I could really see what was being said. And then as my, you know, you call it a practice, and particularly with TM, transcendental meditation, it's not like you have to practice to learn how to do it well. You do it well right from the beginning. It's so simple and natural, and it's just so comfortable. Um, but the practice of it sort of layers upon itself, and you bring more of that experience to the fore. And so that became very foundational for me, you know, and it dropped off all of these other things and allowed me my further inquiry into the nature of existence, and and seemed to accelerate kind of the way I was unfolding. It was very important for me. I actually ended up um, going to Europe for 6 months to learn how to be a teacher of TM, and I taught it for many years. And I remember one time in the early days when I was just walking along, and all of a sudden, it was like I shifted like 1 degree to the right, you know, just my whole perception just went shifted, and I saw everything in a slightly different way. So it's just been sort of a continuum and enjoyable. And yeah, I mean, look, I live in life and I've had my ups and downs and heartaches and stumbles and stupidities and everything else like everybody else has. But, uh, you know, some of those experiences have had the time to mature into some wisdom and some understanding and some feelings of grace for everyone else around, you know. So I think that that initial experience that I referred to when I first transcended um, really drove home to me the importance of experience, of not just looking for answers in somebody else's ideas or, you know, some information that you read in a book, but really finding a way to have the experience. And then that outer exploration just becomes a stepping stone that leads you to another question that you bring inside, find some resolution, or and then take the next step, or a confirmational thing. So it's just a very, if we can be easy with ourselves, I think, and just allow the process to unfold. And I think one of the things that I really appreciate about you, Bo, and what you're doing with the Sage Circle and everything, is your emphasis on giving people the tools to have their own inner experience. Um, I think we the time is really ripe to go there. You know, I mean, a lot of us have been on the journey for a long time, um, and there's some incredible people in the group that just amaze me. Um, and I think we're all here to enhance that experience for each other. And
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. So you've been a lifelong explorer. I mean, this has just been part of your path from birth, it sounds like. And it also, what I'm hearing is that as time goes on, when timing was right, you were introduced to the things that opened you further and further and further.
like Bo Maxwell in the Sage Circle,
Like the
right?
Sage Circle,
Well, there
absolutely.
you go.
Well, tell me about one intuitive experience you had that really changed you or challenged you.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of quick change ones. The challenge one is an ongoing process where I'm constantly, my 3D self is constantly challenging my expanded self, and vice versa. So that's an ongoing thing. But I remember, you know, back when I was trying to figure things out, and this is probably just before I learned TM actually. I was living in northern Vermont. I was in my early 20s, and it was late summer, time to cut firewood. So a bunch of us were in a pickup truck, and I was bouncing along in the back, um, and we were going to go out and find dead wood, you know, and bring it back for firewood, put it up. And as usual, my mind was just sort of going, and along these lines, because that's sort of just the way it's built. Um, but a few weeks prior, I had made a conscious intention. I said, I want to live by intuition, you know, and, you know, you have sort of expanded the definition of intuition for me and others I know. Um, at that point, it was like, you know, well, women's intuition, you know, so you kind of know what's going to happen, or you kind of know what the right next step is, you know, which in one sense seems a little bit limited to, um, you know, the more expanded definition of intuition that we might have here in the Sage Circle. But actually, that's the expanded version, is just spontaneously taking the right next step for yourself. Anyway, I had the intention to do that and just was really seeing if I could feel things through as opposed to just trying to figure things out. But this idea popped up. I said, why would even anyone want to go through all of this? You know, what to go to find this unity, this elusive thing. And I looked up, and it was late afternoon, and the sun was going down behind one of the mountains and illuminating the leaves that were quaking on the top of this tree, and they just glowed gold. And I was just thrilled to my core. And it was sort of what I call now a self-validating experience where I had knowledge. I said, oh, the further along you go, the more beautiful it becomes. And there is this light that we all are. And I'd kind of known about this thing, but I had this experience, and it was sort of an external thing, but it triggered that inner knowing. So that really thrilled me and was just another step that kind of prepared me for understanding higher states of consciousness and all of that. Then the other thing that really changed me, and I think it's a theme that I think is important to understand, which I'll mention when I get to the end of this little story, is probably around the same time I read Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda.
Mm-hmm.
Great book. And there's some parts in that that'll just sort of give you chills, you know, and some of the connectivity that's on in there. And I remember when he talked about the, I guess the guru of gurus or whatever, the master of masters, Babaji, and he had this crew of people that cruised around with him, and they were living in another level, another dimension, and they would materialize and take care of a situation that needed taken care of, and then they'd just disappear again, and they'd go off into their own dimension, and then they'd come again. And in this group were just regular people. You know, there was this surfer guy who had gone to India and become enlightened, and then there was this other. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great? Gee, just to be part of a group like that. Yeah, okay, here we go. Just a quick sidebar, you know, the group, the sage group, right? Wouldn't that be just great? Oh God, that's how could I possibly even be anything like that? Okay. Fast forward several decades, 2012 probably. I have an experience in that gap between waking and dreaming. And I've had several of these, and we won't go into all of them, obviously, but you know, you get to know the difference between a dream and an ethereal experience, right? So I was introduced this wonderful, sweet, gray-haired lady, very strong authority, but very loving, sort of said, welcome, and introduced me to a bunch of other souls. They were all kind of living in a tree. I mean, I don't know what that meant, but that's just sort of the imagery that it was, right? Mm-hmm. And they were all, you could sense that they were sort of at different levels of experience and evolution. But they said, you're on your way. You're part of the group. We're all here for you. We're cheering you on. It's all good. And you know, I don't feel like I was necessarily an apprentice, but they recognized me as an aspirant, and that we were all in it together. And I just was said, thank you so much. And then this one fellow pops out from behind the tree, and he said, that's the most important thing, meaning the gratitude.
Yeah.
And it was so great because, you know, it connected that dot from several decades prior. And knowing that that's always been there anyway, whether I could recognize it or not. And I haven't still yet got to the point where I'm in constant communication and, you know, lounging around and eating potato chips with them all and all that stuff. But, you know, it was just this little touch say, okay. So that gave me great comfort and realized, that question of, oh, how can I ever get to this thing? Well, it's there. It's there. And so that led me to some other things. I actually found out who the gray-haired lady was. She was this lady named Pearl, and pointed me to some books to read by another fellow. It was really quite interesting, the whole thing. So I think that was a big experience, very conformational. And the fact that there was such a gap in between really gave me great comfort, I guess, because you know that you're always on the road no matter what you're experiencing at that any given moment.
Those strike me as very impactful.
Yep.
Almost as if they're also simultaneously putting some pieces together for you, but also opening up another door for you at the same time.
Yes. Well, see, that's exactly right. And that's why, when I was talking before about knowledge and experience, they go hand in hand or step by step. You gain a little knowledge, brings you to some experience, which takes you to the next bit of knowledge. You gain some more experience. It's just, back and forth, and they support each other. And we don't want to get lost in any one of them.
Absolutely.
It's a continuum.
Lifelong journey.
Yep.
These amazing things shift, change, happen. Pieces come together, doors open for you. Mm-hmm. What positive results do you feel strongly that you experienced today because of continually pursuing this path?
Positive results. Well, I think, so how can you separate the two? I don't know. It's sort of, that is the positive benefit is consciously, I guess being so grateful to be awake enough to know that I'm doing it or that it is happening, put it that way. And it's just an ever onward process, and to know that I'm kind of on the way home, and be happy that way. I've come to kind of understand that, there is the road from singularity through duality. Mm-hmm. And then the boomerang starts to come back. And then you go from the duality on your way back to the singularity. And you don't know that for a while, but then there comes a time when, here we go. All right. Look at where we've been. Look at what we've done, and we're heading home now. And that's exciting. And you get excited, but you're still enjoying the journey. You love being out there. I mean, I love physically traveling. I love, I've lived and worked all around the world and stuff like that. And I've lived life a lot with all its worldly pleasures. And, you talk about Maya. The Maya isn't that this 3D reality isn't real and that the absolute and spiritual, quote unquote, is the real. The Maya, or the ignorance, is that there's a difference between the two of them. Mm-hmm. It's just this, it's all the same thing. And here we are. Hallelujah.
Here we are. Well, I really would like to ask you the question about what aspect of the Sage Circle feeds you the most. And I want to ask that question because you have so much lifetime experience and you've had so many incredible openings and awakenings. And here we are today, and you're a part of the community. What part of the community works the best for you?
All of it in different ways, I'd have to say. Um, uh, you and what you're doing, your mission to bring um, bring the idea of more of life to people's experience. Your book, Cracking Open, great story. I think stories, our own, sharing our stories, which is why these podcasts are really, really cool, because we get to hear other people's stories and say, oh, okay, this is something I hadn't considered. And I've had some of those listening to the other people talk. And for me, um, my mind is all over the place and my experience is all over the place. So the fact that you put together the course and the courses um, uh, gives me the opportunity to say, okay, here's a step, here's a thing that I can do, and sort of not be flailing quite so much, and then take the resulting experience onto the next thing. And then I think that the group itself, the Sage Circle, is really, really timely and really important, because there's so much love in the group, and everybody just helps each other. Come on, people, we just got to help each other. There's so much baloney in the world. Oh my God. And here's this safe little space, and hopefully a bigger and bigger space as time goes on, where people can be who they are, ask their questions, explain their situations, talk about stuff, and get useful communication, and not just information, but love and support and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important to have that group, and I think it's cool that you're having, I forget what you call it, where the sort of the different groups, the different, there's
the
a person,
clubs.
the clubs and all that kind of stuff. Because here's the thing, we don't need another religion.
No.
We don't need another organization. Hello. This is the time for us to be ourselves and to be our own guru. This is the time to really unfold who we are. And so you, with the help of the guides and the powers that be and timing and whatever else we know, put together this this rarefied community where everybody can be their own individual, yet
Yes.
still together, and then break out into areas of common interest and maybe float from one to another.
And local chapters too,
right?
Just to be able to connect with somebody, near you, and establish that local community as well. But to be part of clubs that, really feed you, that excites me. I love the love in the group. That's, I really thrive on that. So even a day off for me, I still pop into the group for my own self.
Right. Well, you can't have a day off from who you are.
Isn't that the truth? Well, I would love to ask one last question of you.
Okay.
I'm kind of excited to hear the answer.
Okay.
What is one piece of advice you would give to others walking on their spiritual path?
Don't be in a rush. It's an infinite continuity. It's a continuum. And we've been so many places already, and there's so many places more to go. And just focus on yourself. Don't worry about other people. And really, really get to love yourself. Banish guilt from your experience. I know this is more than one thing, but I think it all belongs together.
I think I'm open and welcoming of it, absolutely, because we have so much to learn from you.
Oh, from each other, for sure. I feel so, I feel kind of, I don't know what the exact word is. I probably think of it, it's a common word, but, some compassion, I guess, for people who feel guilty about doing stuff. Don't ever feel guilty about doing anything. Hello. I mean, just because you're in this body and this lifetime, that does not define who you are. I mean, you've done some, I mean, I know even in this lifetime, I've done some stupid things, but we won't go there. But I know in previous lifetimes, I've done some pretty bad things as well, but that doesn't define who I am. What defines who you are is who you are right now. I mean, right now. Oh, no, wait, right now. Oh,
Right now.
you know, so just just enjoy the ride, because we're all in this together. Um, I think two key words I think are really important, and they're kind of things that I always come back to. One is perspective, and the other is context. So a lot of what we beat ourselves up about are because that we take that behavior or that idea or whatever it is in the context of society or what we see and what is success and what is the right thing and what does he think and what does she think and that's irrelevant. It that the context is you and your spiritual unfoldment, your spiritual journey, just like everyone else's. And then perspective is again that continuum. I mean, this lifetime is just a blip on the radar, but when you're in the blip, I mean, that's where you are. So I think what we're really called to do is to love no matter what, and love even those who seem to be unlovable. And boy, don't there seem to be some of them out there. But the point is, they're not out there. They're all part of who we are. So the battle, if you want to call it a battle, or the challenge is all inside. Everything, bring it back home, bring it back in, take care of it. What's going on in me that is creating this perception that there's something wrong out there? So I guess I'll just leave it at a saying that came to me one time, and I think it's a good thing to do. Uh, every day, just love as much as you can, as much as you can, and that's all you have to do. If you can't love too much that day, that you already did it. You did it. You loved as much as you can, as much as you can that day.
I love that. I love that. That is a beautiful way to end this really wonderful gathering.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Bo.
so much for being on here with us.
It's been fun. I love it. I love you too.
Love you, Daye.